Welcome to another episode of Ghana Ground Up. My name is Desmond Kafui, and here on the show, we share everything about Ghana's evolving real estate sector. Today, we'll be talking about housing issues in the country, but then with focus on affordable housing. The question remains, is affordable housing truly affordable? Or is it just a myth that a lot of people just throw about, especially government agencies throw about just to garner our votes or garner our interest to show us that they're doing something really good? So we'll be delving into all the intricacies of housing issues in the country. And hopefully by the time we're done, you will be able to answer for yourself whether affordable housing today is truly affordable. Let's look at the true cost of housing for the everyday Ghanaian. Now, I believe that everybody wants to have a place of his own, and it's a good thing we should all aspire to, because at the end of the day, you don't have to bother about the stress of paying your rent or having to worry about saving up for 1 or 2 years' rent upfront. You don't have to deal with unpleasant landlords or neighbors, or even have to worry too much about moving if you have to move house maybe every other 2 years or something like that. So in the end, I believe that everybody will agree with me that having a place of your own is the right way to go, and it's something that we should all be able to attain. But unfortunately, in the country at the moment, not everybody has a place of his own. We have the issue of a housing deficit, and the number that keeps being thrown around is about 2 million housing units. Now, this simply means that out of the population, a growing population of about 30 million Ghanaians, we need about 2 million new houses to be able to house everybody. So in that case, it's a huge number. Is it a crisis? Well, someone may argue yes, someone may argue not really. But at the end of the day, a lot of people need very decent housing. Talking about decent housing, when you drive through the prime areas in Accra, it's a mixed pot where you see high-end apartments, high-end buildings, and all that. But then, very close to them, you would see slums, and by slums, you would see a lot of people living in kiosks. I've not seen more of the container homes. I mean, that would be on another spectrum. But then you see more of the people living in kiosks, some actually living very roughly on the streets in front of shops and all that. So then coming back to the issue of affordable housing, most of the options that the government has put out, the schemes that they've outdoored over time, have achieved some form of success. But then when we analyze things from the issue of pricing, things begin to look a little out of hand. For a lot of Ghanaians, we try to assume that a lot of people are actually in the middle income bracket. But then you see that people are actually living below the average or even the minimum wage that is expected for the working class Ghanaian. Now, a lot of people are in the informal sector of the economy, and that means that it's one of two things. You may have people doing very well, and then you may also have people who are barely, surviving. When you go to Accra Central, you see that a lot of people are driving the economy from the informal sector. And most of these people, when you look at, let's say, the market women, when you look at the porters, by the porters I mean the kaya, and then the guys who use the wheelbarrows to convey our goods and all that. Let's look at the issue of people in transportation, the trotros, the taxis, and all that. A lot of these people may not be able to make probably up to 5,000 cities a month. And even 5,000 cities a month is a huge stretch. So let's even narrow it down to, let's say, 2,000 cities a month. I'm not sure if there's a Kaye who makes up to about 2,000 cities a month. But then let's assume that that is the case, and then there's someone who earns that much. By splitting that money into the different needs that you have to meet as a Ghanaian, you will quickly realize that you don't have a lot of money left to cater for housing. Let's say you're living in a place where housing is costing you about 500 Ghana cedis, and that is rare. So let's take that 2,000 cedis, split it down such that 500 cedis goes to rent, and then you have to take care of other things. If you have a family, you definitely have to take care of your feeding, electricity, utilities, and all that. By the time you're done, you have very little left to make ends meet. And if you're renting, the goal is to have a place of your own. And if you're renting with this 2,000 cedis, how much will you be able to put aside over time to be able to afford a house? Now, we're talking about affordable housing. And from the figures, a studio apartment, or let's say a single room for an affordable housing project, will set you back, let's say about $14,000. But then, hey, I know we are dealing with Ghana cedis, so let's double down and work with Ghana cedis. On the average, a studio apartment will cost you about 150,000 Ghana cedis. And for the person who is earning about 2,000 cedis a month, who can barely save anything, even if they end up saving, let's say 500 cedis a month, every month, you can imagine the number of months they would have to save for to be able to afford this 150,000 cedi studio. And bear in mind, the average Ghanaian family is not really made up of just the husband and the wife and then maybe one child. Normally, you have more than two, or even let's reduce it down to, let's say, five: husband, wife, and then three kids. There's definitely no way you can conveniently live and enjoy a good lifestyle in a studio apartment. A studio apartment is a single room, and not even a one-bedroom apartment. You would need at least a two-bedroom apartment, so maybe one unit for the husband and wife, and then one unit can be shared by the children. And the moment you move from a studio to, let's say, a two-bedroom apartment, the cost of the property doubles. So you may end up having to consider a price point of about 300,000 Ghana cedis, way up to about 500,000 or even more. Now, how many people can truly afford this price point? And that begs the question if affordable housing is truly affordable. Now, beyond the pricing point and the pricing challenges that the everyday Ghanaian faces in a bid to acquire property, there are also other issues that we have to look at. So we talked a bit about the issue of affordable housing and how a lot of people are actually cut out from the market because of the prices and all that. But then on the side, let's look at someone who is making decent money and wants to take up a unit at all cost. You may have to settle for a mortgage. And so let's look at what is on offer for you, what you can expect. For the mortgage sector, you would have to look at either a dollarized mortgage or a mortgage which is denominated by the cedi. But then since we're doing the pricing in Ghana cedis, let's look at what you'll be dealing with a Ghana cedi mortgage. The current interest rate is around 23%. At 23%, it's not the cheapest rate that you can get. But then let's say you still want to go for it, that's fine. Now, imagine you're going for, let's say, a unit going for 500,000 Ghana cedis. When you run the numbers using a term of about 10 to 15 years, you may end up paying about 3,500 cedis every month for the mortgage. And bear in mind, before you qualify for the mortgage, you should be able to afford or pay for at least 20% to 30% of the cost of the property. And beyond being able to afford that amount, that initial deposit, you also need to qualify in the books. Your accounts need to look very good, and you need to have very good ratings to be able to qualify for the mortgage. So there's quite a lot to deal with when it comes to taking or getting a mortgage. How many people can afford a mortgage, and how many people can make a payment of about 3,500 cedis a month? Now, look at it this way. Affordable housing is such that it is intended to take not more than 30% of your income every month. So if you have to pay about 3,500 cedis every month for your mortgage, then you should be earning at least three times this amount. So you should be looking at someone earning about 10,000 Ghana cedis to be able to afford a property, going for anywhere between, let's say, 300 to even 500,000 Ghana cedis. And bear in mind, we're looking at the scheme of affordable housing. In the same vein, but taking a sidestep, we have to understand that if we rely heavily on the government to execute on the offer of affordable housing, we may end up waiting for really, really long because, I mean, we know it takes the government quite some time to execute on projects. Not necessarily their fault, but then there are a lot of players to pull together, and there are a lot of bureaucratic documentations and processes to go through in order to execute a project. But then, as it stands, the housing deficit keeps rising and the population keeps growing. So we all need a place to lay our heads. For affordable housing to be executed successfully, you need a collaboration between the private sector and the public sector. The challenge with the private sector executing on affordable housing is that a lot of them, by default and not by faults of theirs, are geared towards the higher end of the market because that is where the profit is. That is where it makes sense for them to operate. And if they have to step into affordable housing, then the government has to really make it easy for them by giving them a lot of tax breaks, by making it easy for them to afford land. And by that, if the government can provide land for free, as they've already done for some of the projects already executed, that'll be a good way for the private sector to take up the challenge of building affordable houses. My personal take is this. For a lot of people who are looking for affordable houses, those who really need it, they are not able to afford it because they don't make enough money to even count themselves in the bracket of people who can take up these units. So then, I don't think affordable units, as we have them lately or as we have them today, are really affordable. Someone may beg to differ, but then I'd like to hear your thoughts and what you think about the state we're in and what we can do differently. Of course, definitely, knowledge is not in just one person's head. We need all hands on deck if we're going to make some headways. You want to send in your questions either by video, you can leave comments on our posts, on our pages. Send us your thoughts, share what you have on your mind. That way, whatever we bring to you will be refined and detailed to respond to the questions and challenges that you may be experiencing. On the side, do well to subscribe, share the link, and just share this video with anybody who may have had some conversation with you over time about the housing crisis, the housing sector, and how they can make sense and become homeowners one day. So all in all, you can see that even though there are strides made by the government and private sector to bring about affordable housing, there is still a lot of space, a lot of room to bring on other approaches that will make it easy for you to afford a property. Now, alternatives to the standard block and cement and concrete building that you can look at that are less expensive or that are affordable, I would say in quotes, would be maybe considering container homes built using shipping containers. Now, this is a thing, and it's been on the market for quite some time now, and people are actually building very amazing units with it. It's not necessarily cheap, but then if you can build your house within a relatively short time, definitely you will be making some savings in the end. So then with a shipping container house, you just need to get it insulated. Of course, you need a very good structure. The shipping container should be wholesome in the sense that maybe what was transported in it shouldn't be any deadly chemicals and all that. But then you can trust those who are in the space to get you the right material, the right container. So beyond that, you can insulate it, they know what to do. And within a period of, let's say, 3 months or even less, you can actually have your home ready, turnkey, to move in and then start living. But at the end, not everybody is able to afford this. Beyond shipping container homes, there are other materials that are coming on board. Some will be sharing in the upcoming episodes as well as we document what else is out there beyond the standard and traditional methods of constructing homes that we are used to. Another thing that we can consider as a country is to upzone the urban areas, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to live in an urban area, and we can see the proof with Ghana, Kumasi, with Tema, with all these places having a lot of inflow of people coming from the rural areas to the urban areas, because that is where the action is and everybody wants to make their home here. By upzoning, I mean we can consider building up, because land is very scarce lately and very highly priced. So with a plot of land, instead of just building maybe one or two family units, you can actually build up where you can have multiple family units in a very small space, as we're seeing with apartments. But then, even though the apartments are achieving this, we need the government to step in to be able to replicate this and get this done with the goal of affordable housing in mind. I believe you will agree with me that regardless of the efforts made so far, there are issues that need to be resolved and it will take time. and don't count yourself out as being part of the solution. You're part of it, and definitely by you contributing your quota and doing your part, eventually we will be able to count the issue of housing as a thing of the past. In the midst of all the challenges that we face in the industry today, there are still many opportunities. And to catch up on what we have to share, definitely you'd want to subscribe to the channel and you want to stay in the loop as we share more about what's happening. Many thanks to POLEN Realty, who are channel sponsors and make it possible for us to be on your screens every now and then. You want to check them out if you're looking for a place to buy, or you have a property you want to rent out, or you just need help understanding and making sense of the real estate sector. My name is Desmond Kafui, and it's been an honor coming your way again. We'll catch up in the next episode of Ghana Ground Up. Peace.